And we're back. 2 games still remain to go through, and we had a hell of a last game with Roth walking away with a ton of kills. We've seen those hills just to the north of Fairy Pier be a factor inside of 2 of our games so far, technically 3, because it was a couple of passing fights that happened inside of one of our games as well, where it didn't end up at. So it seems like we're getting a little bit of a trend. I'm hoping we go somewhere else, though, Clover. Venture off into some other foreign land.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some dry desert lands, perhaps?
Maybe, maybe. So, with this, we're going to be making our way back over towards Miramar. But for that last round, look at that. Zenith walking away with 24 points. Big performance coming out from those guys. Back behind that, Guadalajara gas cans. That's going to throw me every single time. And no, I'm not going to say GG chat. I'm going to get it right sooner or later. Any trolls in chat back behind that coming in third.
I mean, really fantastic game for all of those teams. We've seen them continue. I think really the trend throughout the entire day. ATC has now really, I think, cemented themselves as a team that's able to make it through the mid
Yeah.
to late game and with quite a lot of points. But the Guadalajara Gas Cans, formerly 303, Matt, when I think of 303, I thought of an edge team that played it really safe until the late game, and oftentimes that didn't work for them. It weren't a team
Mhm.
that oftentimes was even on the left-hand side of the leaderboard. Whatever changes that they have brought about are working right now because they are looking so, so good. But I mean, the real story at hand, of course, is Zenith Esports.
I mean, we had a very interesting set of games, and naturally that led up to Zenith now creeping up back behind the Hardshifts. Hardshifts managing to finally pick up some more points because they were struggling in those first 2 rounds, getting a little bit more distance back behind that. But you can see, keep in mind, A is not playing today. It'll play A and C tomorrow. So only 2 games left for B. That's why you can see that they're up towards the top of the leaderboard right now. They've just played more of the games. But that makes a statement in and of itself towards teams like Sonic and TAC 8 who are still holding on to third and fourth respectively inside of their positions and have had played 3 less games at this point.
Yeah, and two, the big question as well from all of this is the Miramar shift going to throw a wrench into things for some of these teams right now that are on the climb? Or on the flip side of that, is Miramar going to help these teams that are struggling a bit the chance to kind of climb up just a bit? To see so many C teams still so low on the leaderboard, haven't even like sub 20 points, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a rough go for a lot of our C teams. I mean, just look. Comments, Elusive, San Diego Rarity, Illusion, and Dodge have 2 points between them right now. It is a struggle bus to try to figure out any way to pick up any points whenever you've got teams like Shoot to Kill, the Gas Cans, and any trolls in chat just nomming up everything and starting to climb on the left side of the leaderboard.
And real quick, let's take a look at the kills and damage for this last match before we get into the next game because Roth with 10
Roth!
kills, but miraculously did not break 1,000 damage for that. But look how many more kills he got over Voxic with 5, Leda with 4, Free Me Please and Subtle with 3 apiece. And when you look at damage, Marcelic for ATC is all the way down there is 679. And so the strength that we're seeing with Roth and also as well the kickstart who's also in the top 5, I think is really aiding into this insane growth and push that we've seen from Zenith today. But now, that said, we've got Miramar coming back up as I believe the teams are in the plane, Matt, and it's going to be exciting to see if it changes just a bit. And of course, as you said, a little bit very different circle terrain. We had 3 very similar circles with Erangel, so it'll be nice to see something different.
Yeah, the fundamental problem is with some of these teams is that it wasn't the map that was the problem. It was the fact that we kept seeing teams that were instead of taking long range third parties, making aggressive third party plays. And looks like Zenith might find themselves in a little bit of trouble as Pankill should be able to land and maybe find himself a weapon fairly quickly. Zenith needs to try to get away from this position. A couple of shots going to go back over towards it, but not enough to even connect onto anything. So Zenith in a little bit of trouble. We're going to be able to find a little bit of safety and now should just be able to regroup and find some new home that they want to go to.
Oh, and that home is far, far away. As we're going to take a hard shift to the northwest out in El Pozo. Crater Fields, and La Cabrera. And you know what? They weren't the only team as well that had a little bit of company. We see Shoot to Kills got Rarity and Elusive just a little bit close by, but they're going to get their weapons just late enough that Elusive should be able to get boots on the ground here into Power Grid in time. But now, Matt, with a circle like this, half of our teams need to work their way into the zone. And so we're going to see some very similar rotations as I expect most teams to go north, northeast before heading west into the zone. In fact, I think right now, Oath and it looks like Zenith have sent not one but two different scouts right in the same direction. Pat Caps and Kickstart right on each other's tails. So it's going to be a little bit of a gnarly push to start for some of these teams as they're trying to get into the zone safely.
No, Oath, leave Zenith alone. They just want to find somewhere to stop for a second. Everywhere they go, they bump into a new team. And with Zenith and the way that they're managing to make their push back over, Shoot to Kill decided to run into a 2-2. Naturally, no surprise, they sent one of their two back over towards Hacienda to get a little bit of loot. ATC making use of San Martin right now. And Oath looking at maps, not paying attention to hay barrels. That just tends to happen every once in a while. We all do it.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing out any judgment. And chat, if you judge for that, you're wrong, because let's be real, you do it too. All right.
I do it every day.
Zenith finally gets to take some shots back at everybody that's been shooting at them.
Ooh, good shots out from Kickstart. You know what? Do it. Do the damage here. In fact,
No.
That is the worst place to do that. But I don't even know if Kickstart realized right away what exactly happened, but it looked like they're going to be able to regain control of the buggy there. So, you know what, though? Look at this rotation that Oath has coming, though. San Martin right now, we see both SDK and ATC in this area, and SDK with a nice little split going on as well.
Yeah, this is one of those circles that we're going to see a lot of interesting happen. Do note that the area around Crater Fields, just south of La Cabrera, that hillside, is going to be, there's going to be people kind of littering across different points on it because the high ground just gives you so much information from that point. Additionally, we often see that there's a couple of, for lack of a better term, god complexes that you can play on that, to where you can kind of have like this different tiers of locations that you can play and just really harass everybody that has to rotate late game. That's if it still stays around Crater Fields. If it goes back down next to El Pozo and that side of the area where we do have, again, the El Pozo fields, is that just kind of the theme today, Clover? Are we just going to have fields in every single one of our games?
You know what? Open area. Let's just put it in hard mode for everybody.
That's it, yeah. I often talk about the fact that I want hard circle shifts. No, that's what I should have been wanting fields for forever, right? Let's be honest. We don't want to see snakes. We don't want to see snakes. We want to see people shooting their hearts out. We want to see people making crazy rotations, intelligent plays. So let's see if anybody's making any of them right now. Top Dog's on his way to get a little bit more of a regrouping back over with his friends, playing the western part of Crater Fields.
And Crater Fields is going to be a very important stronghold for a circle like this, especially with only phase one being popped thus far. But Matt, you and I both know with Miramar, we can have very hard shifts all the way into phase two. And so where these teams position out in the very beginning is key. And that's why you really want to see those teams put as center as possible, because if you push yourselves on the edge, you run the risk of being way too far away from where that next circle pops, guys. I know we've got a little bit of game lag right now that's for whatever reason showing one member of Rarity flying in the air, guys, but that is just an observer bug. So it's like a yo-yo.
That's like, I know, like, look at that. This isn't Mario. You don't run around stomping on everybody's heads, guys.
Yoshi. Yeah.
It's maybe watching a speed run for that right now. Ooh. But all right. Most people are going to play the southern area around Crater Fields just because of the nature of the beast, La Cabrera, and, you know, like the trailer park area that just doesn't see a lot of attention usually. I say that, so I'm intentionally caster cursing it because I want to see it go up there. But usually El Pozo, Crater Fields, Power Grid, San Martin, Monte Nuevo, those areas get a little bit more cluster and more love towards the late game and just how everything plays out. So you can see a lot of long-range skirmishes starting to set up, specifically along those hillsides that we were trying to allude to you guys earlier. This area has a lot of positions to get high vantage points and really just try to take control of other teams' rotations. Hit a couple of really strong shots. It's going to make it really difficult for them to go to the places that they want. They're going to feel the need to pull off and go to some other location.
Ooh, and some other location right now is definitely the play for them here. And as we see as well, Sharpshot, who has put himself a little bit close to elusive, scouted out some extra information for ATC. He's going to go ahead and pull back down to the south, continuing on his rotation with the rest of his squad as they look for their next place to put down. We talked about why that Crater Fields position was so important, and this is why later teams are going to miss out on vying for that position. But speaking of vying for positions, Guadalajara Gascans right now taking some shots onto Houston Hardshifts. They've got a couple knocks themselves, and Oldless is actually going to send it in close range to try to clear house and maybe perhaps get a second knock or two, as members of Hardshifts might be going for those reses. Oldless is actually going to spot one. He's already very low, but just can't get a single bullet into him, and unfortunately he's going to get hit pretty hard there by J-Sync.
I love that. Take the shot, run away. You didn't see me. You didn't see me. Everything's fine. Let the teammates go ahead and get a little bit more information over, try to get the meds back up. Hardshifts look like they had a good advantage point to start this one out. But the repositions coming out from gas cans, and really this very aggressive repositions coming out from Oldless, I like it. It's denying a lot of the utility that we can see Hardshifts try to do. Hardshifts are very strong players and usually try to outthink or try to reposition. But this aggressive positioning coming out from Oldless is kind of throwing them off their game.
Oh,
He's
J-Sync
just coming in with bravado, trying to get the shots back over. Get spotted out, quick exchange back and forth. Oldless takes a lot of damage off that one though, but can feed that back over towards his teammates to try to make a play.
I mean, the thing that Oldless needs to be careful about now is the fact that Maluk has actually repositioned to the high ground and might be able to get a vantage point if he could just get sight around those trees. Oldless, though, is a little bit locked and loaded into J-Sync, and that's going to be a little bit careful, though, as it actually gets him down to 1 HP.
Man, just narrowly surviving that. Now everything switches back over towards Maluk. He's got to cover his teammate. It's a couple of shots. Oldless doesn't look like he's going to be deterred, though. This guy has goals. He's just running up, finally realizes the tree is going to buy him enough space to work with, but just in time for J-Sync to get his meds off. Now he can go for a little bit of a reposition on his own. Try to use that bravado that Oldless is trying to bring out to his advantage. He knows what tree that they're stacked behind, but everybody on gas cans knows exactly where J-Sync is positioned at as well. So this has become a little bit of a do-si-do back around these different positions. Helmets be damned. All pieces of armor are getting knocked off. Meds are being burned all over the place. J-Sync goes down. Now it is just going to be Maluk. Luke doesn't really have an angle to work with. He's trying to get a little bit more out of this one, but he knows that he's got to go. He's got to play for safety. And the whole time this is going on, Virtue heard him taking shots and is now starting to reposition to creep up back behind him. Our number one team right now could find themselves going out very early.
Oh, and there you go as well. Look at that. The circle shift is actually going to help all of these teams, but Virtue now right on top, or should I say right below Maluk, as they're working their way in to figure out what all that fighting was. The biggest thing that Maluk can do right now is to hope not to get spotted, as he actually took a bit of damage from that fight. And you know what, as well, shout out to Oldless, because he took so many bullets from so many members of the Hardshifts, but somehow managed to stay up through all of it, keep his cool, and clear up quite a bit for himself. So as gas cans are going to continue to rotate back towards the west along the edge of the inside of the circle, and safety between them and Hardshifts, that has now put Virtue right on top of Maluk, and that's where things are going to get just a little bit spicy for him, because there's not really anywhere he can go where he's not going to be spotted.
Well, there's a ton of people trying to make a move right now. It's not just poor Maluk really wishing that he can go somewhere else. You can see that we have about 6 teams in rotation right now. With the shift in position back over here, Craterfield still being a big factor, as well as El Pozo. Most of these teams are already kind of calling out that play. You can see back over towards the north, we're going to have Shoot to Kill making a play. Oath also coming in a very central position, coming in right up back behind ATC, who's got an inside track ahead of them. But back behind them is going to be Liberate. Towards the north, it's also going to be Zenith trying to make a rotation as well. And you can see the benefit of these high ground positions and why we were talking about them so early. Trying to get into these points and just be able to figure out where everybody is in front of you allows you to make very smart rotations whenever you come in later.
Ooh, and the smart rotations, as you said, and also information is going to be something very important to play for here. Snakers will get himself knocked, but behind Oath here, just not really much of anything. Liberate did try to rotate initially into this position, but pressure from teams already in the zone is pushing them to take a wider rotation back around to the north. A similar rotation that we're seeing come out from Zenith right now, who just rotated past La Cabrera. The north is actually quite open, and so Zenith should be able to rotate in just easily. But when we look at Dodge, ATC, all of these teams that have put up into the high grounds here by Crater Fields, going inside the crater is not really the play here. So playing the edge, it's why it's getting so crowded, Matt, because everybody wants to try to hold on to as much information as they can because we're only into phase number 2. And again, with these Miramar circles, so many insanely wide shifts, we still have part of the western shelf, that unplayable wall on the far side of the map, into play here. And it's insane that we're still this far to the west this early on.
So Lampalot's got his high ground. He is aware that ATC is repositioned around them. Dodge have a good control point to play from. The problem is everybody is being a little bit more cautious because being aggressive at this point can cost you, because if you have to make a rotation, there's not a lot of good ways to get out of these different points. Oh man, Maluk somehow surviving. And look, you can see Virtue's like, hey, there's free gear over here. We'll go ahead and take whatever's on this. Luke's like, oh, well, yeah, I didn't want any of that. I'll just go run and hide in the hills off into the distance over there. But repositioning is coming in and abounding, but most of the teams playing back over towards the center and the east. The western section and the western corridor are still pretty open, except for Zenith, who you can see right back behind the scoreboards, kind of slowly creeping in. You see them moving back along, back behind Shoot to Kill, and Gas Can's nameplates on that leaderboard right now are really the only western team in position. Liberate starting to make a little bit more of a play back over towards Shoot to Kill's positioning. But really, it's these teams that are trying to give Crater Fields and El Pozo a burst. And now I finally get it. I want to see a trailer park ending. I've been looking forward to this for so long. The early positions coming out means the fact that Illusion's going to have themselves a decent place to play. But this long rotation coming out from Zenith means that they have the entirety of the West to themselves. All those teams that were clustered around El Pozo now have to deal with the funnel. These hills make their own little death funnels that teams that are in position can really just rack up kills. Teams like Comets, potentially Dodge, all these guys can look back over into it. That's why Rarity is already on the go and is not stopping for anything.
I mean, really can't stop for anything either, as you just take a look at the map and see how many teams are in this area, but sending it up ahead to Trailer Park's not going to work well in their favor either, as both players are going to get knocked off the motorcycle, and it looks like Light Show is going to pick up both Innate and Subtle for the kills there. Now, that said, with the rest of the team rotating in, you've got Gas Cans that have held the other high ground here, and Rarity, once again, finding themselves in a little bit of a tricky position. Oldlist just ahead of us, and he might be able to spot them out here, caked with a little bit of damage, but I think at the very least Rarity should continue this rotation. Now the question, of course, is what is the rest of One Eye Open? And Hardy doing a little bit of the same. He's been scouting ahead for his team. The rest of them still coming in through El Pozo, where Comets are currently working on a little bit of a fire range against Dodge. So this is a worse place for Patron and rest of the squad to drive through, because you've got two different teams shooting in this vicinity.
So Dodge still opting and trying to play around their point, raining in a little bit of damage at One Eye Open, who's got their open top convertible, trying to catch as much speed as they can to get the wind in their hair and get to wherever they consider safe as fast as possible. The problem is where they consider safe going to be where we already see Virtue and Gas Cans taking a little bit of a fight, so trying to regroup across that point could be a little bit problematic. Off to the south of them is also going to be Gravity, who's thinking about making a rotation. Our boy Maluk, who's been by himself for so long, finally found himself a vehicle also coming along a potential similar path to this. A lot of these teams are trying to get a little bit more separated out from each other, and you can see that One Eye Open coming in with loud vehicles, coming in, throwing down a little bit of utility. They've got the shots coming in off in the distance. It's Ascendance was the flag that allowed Virtue to say, I don't think that we're ready for a fight. We don't have enough information. Repositioned away from this. So you can see Gas Cans, nothing else to do, just sending it along the road right now, and are going to be running right in between One Eye Open and Ascendance, who've already been taking shots at each other. Maluk coming in his vehicle got a similar path to work on as well, but Comets can't seem to find an angle to work with. There are so many teams that have driven off them. They're just to the right of that point, and they haven't managed to pick up anything off of it, I don't think.
No, I mean, Comet's a little bit of the compound curse with El Pozo. Most teams have really done a good job of steering clear of this, and as the rest of the teams are working their way to rotate in the zone, Gravity got a little bit close to Virtue, but continued on, as we can hear a handful of bullets out in Maluk's direction. I think One Eye Open might have spotted him out from the south, so see shots out as well. Alo and San Diego Rarity very close to each other, as Voxic out on a scouting mission, and this circle shift with the road directly through the center has got to make these IGLs scream right now as they try to figure out where to push through. We aren't going to have that trailer park finish, but these centralized compounds are already taken out. As we can see, Alo continuing try to get shots into what's left of San Diego Rarity, while the rest of Shoot to Kill is just now, I think, starting to send it. Purdy, Curdy, and Civ working their way down. And look at this. I mean, ATC and Oath right on the backside of Shoot to Kill. We could see the kill feed blowing up. Everybody is trying to get as close to the zone as they can, Matt, but there's not really much with all this open area. Oh, look at that throwable.
So close, but now know the fact that they already had an idea that danger was close, and on top of them, next bounce is going to land right up on top of position. Alo just busts open the door. There's a full flank going around on here. Remember, Shoot to Kill was originally known as one of the best breaching teams, and they still have a ton of that roster together. And whenever it comes into taking a building complex, they have no fear inside of it. I'm still mad, though. I want a trailer park. I wanted it so... All right, Zenith is still there, so they can hold on. Maybe we'll get a fight around that position, but you can see it's starting to get a little bit more bloody as Dodge left their high ground position, ran right into the Comets, who made a reposition back over towards the north. Danny G, the last one up for his squad, trying to get as much as he can out of this position, trying to dodge through the flames, but it's going to be Comets that managed to pick that one up and get control of a nice complex, but they got to be careful. Elusive hears it, starting to move into position to take a couple of shots, but long range Shoot to Kill puts in a little bit of damage and forces them away from the play.
This really firing coming out from Ascendance as well as putting the pressure on the rest of Elusive. Fizzle, I think, was trying to get as close to sneak attack as possible to see if he could try to get the res there, but it wasn't going to happen. Nice shot out from Destinator towards Shoot to Kills. They've continued to spot more enemies way off in the distance, but you look at the map, Elusive is a little bit safe here, but they can't do anything from this position. Anytime that they take a peek, they're just going to get shot at by somebody else. But now, speaking of getting shot at right now, Virtue with, a very nice vehicle hit onto Doobie, who's going to get taken out there. Tanaka getting flashy with it while Super spots out Patron.
Good position coming out, and that means the fact that Virtue, who had been doubling around, and it almost felt like a junior high school dance. We said one eye open, and Virtue kept thinking about fighting, like, "Ooh, will you fight with me? I don't know. I don't know if I like you enough to fight with me. Maybe." Finally, they decided to call it together. Virtue makes the play, takes down one eye open, but now they're going to have to continue to make their way just a little bit further north. Looks like most of the teams have now settled into different positions. It should be noted that we do have a 2-2 split coming out from Shoot to Kill to the north. All the rest of the teams firmly grouped except for Gravity as well, who's running a 2-2 of their own. Snakers is kind of holding on for dear life right on the edge of the circle, trying to buy more space and positioning. But really, the big factors that are coming out on top of this looks like it's going to be Ascendance that has a lot of circle control, Gravity's 2-2 split, depending on how things go, and really Shoot to Kill's 2-2 split because they just keep harassing every single team, and they're funneling them to other teams and forcing them to fight each other.
And that, forcing and funneling has been something that's worked so well so far for them right now. Oath all the way only down to Snakers and kind of trapped in along the edge, but ATC being in this dip is actually, I think, going to force Shoot to Kill's attention more so in Snakers' direction. So depending on who takes out Snakers here is really going to allow ATC to turn their backs and focus back at the fight at hand on Shoot to Kill. But as this circle takes another hard shift, Matt, this time going far to the south, that means that this fight does not have as much time as they were hoping. And Norcus is just going to go ahead and send it and trying to get the rest of ATC out of there. So if he can find a little bit of safety, and I mean, Aguila is going to follow shortly after, and Shoot to Kill and what's left of Oath are going to have to also kind of make that decision how they want to get into zone. So really loving this play now from Norcus. He's got the ability to set up an ambush onto Shoot to Kill here.
Well, Shoot to Kill is actually trying to ambush so many different teams. They were taking a fight against Zenith at one point. They were taking pot shots long range against Elusive as well as ATC. They're just trying to funnel everything and get control of the northern corridor, which they've managed to claim for themselves. It's really just Snakers the only point that can kind of contest against them. Everybody else has, meanwhile, been playing back down towards the south. The problem with Shoot to Kill's plan is that the circle went very hard to the south. So all that work that they put in and that separation isn't going to buy them a lot. Now they need to figure out some way to make a play back down along this position, and they're going to try to play the low ground based off of that. Zenith is still trying to harass them as they go, but they don't want to over-aggress just quite yet because they know that there's only 2 members up. They've also been having to contend with Illusion that's just on the other side of this hill. So they have to figure out how they're going to want to handle this. We've seen the Zenith manage to make some very phenomenal plays so far today, but they've got their backs up against the wall. I can't wait to see what they try to bring out next.
Well, I am really excited for this too because... Oh, of course I say that. Bullet's actually out of this area, so Kickstart trying to pick him up, stay alive as possible. Bobbing and weaving, this is actually the best vehicle to try to stay ahead of it, but it's not going to be enough. Roth immediately gets picked off by Free Me Please, flushed out by Top Dog, and they're still not in the zone safely yet. Now in shooting range here for Shoot to Kill, Purdy Curdy with shots onto Kickstart, and unfortunately, the very open field It's going to make this a very difficult one for Kickstart to get in closely. And we see as well, Oath kind of suffers to the exact same fate.
Yeah, I tried to give you the gas there, Zenith, but they just lost one early. Shoot to Kill is now reconvening pretty close up on top of the different positions, so they know exactly where Kickstart's going to be at. They're also harassing back over towards Illusion, denying any vision or information gathering that could be had back off on that angle. Kickstart's still just kind of contending with the blue right now, trying to see if no surprise if he decides to pass over the kill into the blue zone instead of feeding it over towards Shoot to Kill. That might be a smart play depending on how we see them get to in game very regularly with very high point totals. Just go ahead and deny that one out. But at any given point, while he's over here doing his little dance, that's distracting Shoot to Kill, and they're not capable of turning around and reclaiming the territory that they so desperately want to. On the other side of this, it's going to be Jay All Day starting to get a little bit more aggressive back over towards ATC as they're now being forced out into different points. But there we go. Finally, Purdy Curdy manages to catch the angle, takes him down. New circle has popped, and it favors back along the position for Shoot to Kill, Illusion, Gravity, Ascendance, and now ATC since they've cleared out Elusive.
ATC's really held their cooldown, but the biggest problem is that they're going to have to cross the street. If they come up from that position and try to get into the zone, that's going to take them downhill, and the only way to get back into cover is to push the area that we see all of the rest of the teams currently occupying. Shoot to Kill is in a beautiful position for this circle to continue to do damage, not have to worry too hard just yet about other teams. It's actually Virtue and Maluk for Hardshifts, as well as Comets, that are in a very tricky position because there's nowhere to send that is free right now. The hard decision is going to be wherever they put down, they're going to have to immediately fight for, try to take back control and keep as many members as they can alive. Comets already down to 3. Maluk solo out by himself, and you can see that the moment they have taken the peak here, they're already facing tons of Noxes. Only Vegas is still up for Comets now, and it is looking rough.
Zenith had a plan. Didn't work out too well. Comets were like, I have a different plan. Didn't work out very well either. Vegas, the last guy up, tries to make a play. He's going to go down. That means that Ascendants get control over that complex. ATC was contemplating dancing back that direction, but they're not going to go for it as well. Luke does get spotted out, but manages to buy a lot more positioning than I would have expected, going down in 7th. At least getting a couple of position points out of that. It's going to be Virtue, really, that have the virtue of being the only team that has to make their way inside the safe zone. All the other ones starting to get into firm control points to work around. Gravity is still running their 2-2 split. 2 of them still trying to hold back the positioning. Virtue's trying to make their way up towards the north. Illusion also has a slight line back over towards this angle, so that's why you can see Virtue not a lot of options to work with at the time. Keep glancing back over towards the east, but if they start trying to make a play back over there, that just means Ascendants might spot them out.
Ascendance has been doing a very good job of spotting people out indeed. We've seen them do quite a bit of damage to get a couple of kills to show for it this match, but this compound could also prove a little bit problematic as the circle should shift away because the road is really split up so much through the eastern side. Now, Virtue has found themselves a nice little dip here. Unfortunately, Zovran is going to get a knock onto Super, but they might be able to pop off a res if they can act quickly. We can see as well, though, Pan Kill from Gravity has actually anchored himself on the opposite side of here, Virtue, and that is going to spell disaster for them as even Shoot to Kill gets in on this.
Yeah, the moment they walk back down inside that dip, everybody had vision on them, and there's nowhere to go. I mean, we often make the joke about like fish in a barrel or whatever else, but that was just Virtue in a barrel. There was nothing to be had in that spot. Whenever they opted into playing away from Gravity, they were just as good as dead. Gravity had one of the few control points that they could maybe make a play around, and they actually had the numbers advantage on the 2-2 split that Gravity was running at the time. New Circle is going to pop. ATC, Ascendant still happy. Gravity, 2 of their members still happy, and Shoot to Kill has their hillside to play around. Shoot to Kill's repositioned back along this hillside because you know the fact that they're aware that it's going to have to be Illusion that has to move. So trying to set up along this point, they're looking back over, waiting for the moment that we see that team try to make a play, and that's whenever they're going to try to make a play of their own to counterbalance off of it. Lightshow looks like he might be contemplating making his way back over next to where Shoot to Kill's positioning at, because this is really Illusion's only option. They have to make a play aggressively back over towards Shoot to Kill and maybe get some type of opening to work around. Lightshow gets enough damage to buy at least some space, but it looks like the rest of the team doesn't want to go that way. Lightshow, I like what you're putting up right now. Gets a little bit of damage back over towards Shoot to Kill, looks back over towards Gravity, takes down Pan Kill. That was their back anchor point, so that's going to open up more pathing options coming up from Illusion. Instead, a second ago, they had no way to cut a path right through the middle of the circle. Now they have some type of option to play around, losing Pan Kill inside of that point. D-Rich also goes down for Gravity, so now Gravity is 2. That is very centered. They're the only ones that are holding that line, and Illusion can reposition back around to that angle.
Civils really pressure these, continue to hold onto Illusion as very, very good, but it looks like Norcus is actually going to start challenging that as he gets a couple shots into him. We can see even Kurt has just lost all of his armor. Both his helmet and his vest are completely damaged. In fact, the vest is offering nothing, but it is broken. And so Shoot to Kill, while they are in a really nice position, they're starting to struggle with their ability of what they've got left to hold it. And I think Illusion read that as, you know what, this rotation up north, it's not going to work. They tried to send instead directly in a circle, but they're going to be met right away by both Gravity and Ascendance. A beautifully thrown grenade by Zovran takes out Free Me Please, and you can see the struggle in the eyes of Illusion and know that they have nowhere safely to go into the zone.
There's no options. There's nothing good to work around. Light showed the last one up. He was trying to make some magic happen a second ago, but it's not going to have enough to manage to make it happen this time. So, down to 4 teams alive. It's going to be Shoot to Kill still playing along their hillside. Can firmly regroup now. Back over towards the east of them. It's going to be ATC. Shoot to Kill getting a good line of sight back over towards them, forcing them to go away from it. Ascendance still playing inside their complex. Gravity running their 2, still in the center of the circle. Circles may change, but some things stay the same. Finally, Ascendance does have to move, though, being one of the few teams that really has to. And my God, if I thought that was a grenade, if that had bounced, Zovran was as good as dead.
Zovran in a nice little center anchor point position. The only thing that's really keeping him from being spotted out by both Norcus and Ascendance is the dip just beside the road, but we can see Shoot to Kill is still trying to get to him in throwable range, and throwable range is exactly where he is. Civ with a beautifully thrown Molotov. Luke 12 is going to get the flush onto that. And you gotta love this here. But now Ascendance, Matt, they have to leave this compound. This is what we talked about with the road and how that compound could hurt them when that circle shift one more time. Really, where Aguila and Lipson is, that is the best place to be for this zone. Ascendance now throwing out the smoke wall. This is their only chance to get in safely, but look where the smoke wall is leading. It's out in the open, and Shoot to Kill as the perfect line of sight for where they hope to end up.
Aguila's reposition moves him over next to the center of the circle. It gives him a little bit more space. Also allows him to contend against Shoot to Kill. Utility smokes being thrown down like mad by everybody from Ascendance, but there's not a lot of good options ahead of them. They're just trying to peek out and around the smokes, but there's too many firing lines against them. Norcus has got the side of it because he didn't come up and forward. Shoot to Kill still making use of their terrain, peeking around everything, raining in more damage. Ascendance slowly creeping forward, are going to make it inside the safe zone, but they're not safe by any means at this time. It is just the smoke plumes keeping them alive. As these start to dissipate, they're going to find themselves in worse and worse trouble. ATC is using the Ascendance distraction to start to flank back over, regroup. The 2 are starting to meet back up and maybe push into a position where they can contest against anything that Shoot to Kill can bring. They've got a flank position back over towards Ascendance, as well as Ascendance is just being picked apart piece by piece, slowly and steadily from 2 different teams. The whole time, Lipson, the last one up for Gravity, is just huddled in his shack, praying that nobody gets aggressive back over towards him just yet. But Shoot to Kill, starting to separate out, finding their angles. ATC is now aware, with that separation out, back over towards Ascendance means the fact that maybe the top of the hill might be open. Goes for the peek up there, realizes, okay, they've already shifted back off of this point. Now it's just going to be a fight for the shack as Lipson's trying to survive for as long as possible. He knows that he's at the center of it. If he can just survive here, he can at least buy second. But Shoot to Kill is trying to find some way to get him out of that point. They can't overextend, though, because ATC is still harassing off to the side.
And really, that harassment off to the side is one of the things that's been doing a good job at keeping him alive. It's forced Shoot to Kill down into the low ground here in the bowl, and Aguila's going to be able to use that to his advantage to get a headshot there onto Purdy. Purdy tries to get the flush, make sure it's not stolen there by Lipson, who still can't quite peek just yet without threat of Shoot to Kill. But we can see them now rotating back in ATC's direction. They want to make sure not to get spot out. I mean, we saw what happened last game, Matt, when you just pick off one member of Shoot to Kill. Sometimes they can all fall. So you can't discount them out just yet.
Any Trolls in chat has done a good job. They were in a very negative position. They were low man out. They didn't have a lot of members to work with. They were having to cross along the road with Shoot to Kill holding a defined position, but they managed to find the openings to now step over and start contesting more and more. And let's be real, it is Any Trolls in chat against Shoot to Kill right now. Gravity really can't find an angle to make anything work. Norcus is right up on the angle, tries to go for a peek back behind it, gets a shot back onto one of them, but this is your time, Gravity. You're the last member up, peeks the wrong angle, and that's going to be Shoot to Kill walking away with a massive 18 kills.
Oh, I mean, this is really what they needed. A nice double-digit kill game with a chicken winner
Woo.
here for them. Shoot to kill, I think, was in 7th before the start of this game, Matt, and this took them on a very, very large slingshot towards the top. Today is Shoot to Kill's very first day to play. They did not play
Yeah.
yesterday, and already they're catching up to the Team B powerhouses. I mean, it's wild.
I mean, good. Okay, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, why didn't Gravity get involved? Let's be honest, there's no way that Gravity could have gotten involved in that until those fights ended between ATC and Shoot to Kill. I promise you, he was looking up. You could see he was trying to look up the hill, see if anybody was peeking around that angle, but everybody was avoiding any window placements that could come into play. Anybody was peeking around the side. He kept hearing the firefight that was going around over towards his left, steps out the door, goes to his left, but the reposition from Shoot to Kill had already flanked back around on top of that. Just a great set of plays coming out from so many of the teams in that round, be it from ATC's repositioning, Maluk somehow managing to survive for so much longer than we thought possible, and we can see Shoot to Kill walking away with a huge kill count game. Problem comes into play, Clover. It's another huge kill count game, and there's a lot of people that don't have points right now.
Yeah, we talked about sponge points yesterday. We're looking at people who are sponging up points today, and that is not the way that you want to open up. If you're one of those teams that's sometimes in the mid range for the leaderboard, maybe gets most of your action done in the late game, that's been a bit of a struggle, and we've seen
Yeah.
quite a bit of
Yeah.
teams be able to put down pretty huge. Now we do have one more match coming up, one more Miramar game to go, and another opportunity for some of those teams that still have not yet breached 20 to try and do so.
Well, we're going to have to take a quick break. Let everybody go ahead, get a drink of water. It will just be a few minutes, guys. So make sure you guys stay tuned in, and we will be back in about 4 minutes. See you then.